matov umanayim shevet achim gam yachad. Hine matov umanayim shevet achim gam yachad. Hine matov shevet achim gam yachad. Hine matov shevet achim gam yachad. If you'd like the words in front of you, they're at the top of page 128. Hine matov umanayim shevet achim gam yachad. Hine matov umanayim shevet achim gam yachad. Hine matov shevet achim gam yachad. Hine matov shevet achim gam yachad. Hine matov umanayim shevet achim gam yachad. Hine matov umanayim shevet achim gam yachad. Right below those words, Ma yafeh hayom, Shabbat Shalom. What a beautiful day it is today, this day of Shabbat and of peace. Ma yafeh hayom, Shabbat Shalom. 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 Shabbat, Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat, Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat, Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat, Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat, Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat, Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. On page 120, you'll find our blessing for lighting our Shabbat candles. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat. We turn to page 130 as we'll make our way through the Psalms of Kabbalat Shabbat, leading us out of another busy and another difficult week and leading us into the peace we hope of Shabbat. Lechu neranina, neranina l'Adonai. Lechu neranina, neranina l'Adonai. Come let us sing a song to Adonai. Come let us sing a song to Adonai. Lechu neranina, neranina l'Adonai. Lechu neranina, neranina l'Adonai. Adonai. Naria Litzur Yishenu, Ikadma Fana Betodah. Naria Litzur Yishenu, Bizmirot Narialo. Lechu Neranina, Neranina Haladonai. Lechu Neranina, Neranina Ladonai. From Psalm 96, the bottom paragraph of page 131. The heavens will be happy and the earth will rejoice, the sea as well, and all that fills it. We give thanks for creation with this psalm that leads us into our Shabbat of creation. Yismechu Hashamayim, Yismechu Hashamayim, Yismechu Hashamayim, V'tagel haaretz. Yismechu Hashamayim, Yismechu Hashamayim, Yismechu Hashamayim, V'tagel haaretz. Yiram hayam, Yiram hayam, Yiram hayam, Umelo. Yiram hayam, Yiram hayam, Yiram hayam, Umelo. Yismechu Hashamayim, Yismechu Hashamayim, Yismechu Hashamayim, V'tagel haaretz. On page 132, near the bottom of the page, Or Zarua Lat Sadiq Ul Yishrei Lev Simcha, light is sown for the righteous, and happiness for those who are filled with goodness in their hearts. Or Zarua Lat Sadiq Ul Yishrei Lev Simcha, Or Zarua Lat Sadiq Ul Yishrei Lev Simcha, Or Zarua Lat Sadiq Ul Yishrei Lev Simcha, Ul Yishrei Lev Simcha, Or Zarua Lat Sadiq Ul Yishrei Lev Simcha, Ul Yishrei Lev Simcha. Lai 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 lai, lai 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 lai, lai 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 lai, lai 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 lai, lai 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 lai, lai 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 lai. Or Zarua Lat Sadiq Ul Yishrei Lev Simcha, Or Zarua Lat Sadiq Ul Yishrei Lev Simcha. If you will join me on page number 135. Romamu Adonai Eloheinu, V'hishtachvu lahar kodsho, we bow down at God's holy mountain, for Adonai our God is holy. It's the last three lines of the Hebrew on page 135. Romamu Adonai Eloheinu, V'hishtachvu lahar kodsho. Romamu Adonai Eloheinu, V'hishtachvu lahar kodsho. Ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu Romamu. Ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu Romamu. Romamu Adonai Eloheinu, V'hishtachvu lahar kodsho. Romamu Adonai Eloheinu, V'hishtachvu lahar kodsho. On page 137, the last two lines of the Hebrew. Adonai oz le'amo yitain. May God give strength to God's people. Adonai yivarech et amo v'shalom. May God bless God's people with peace. Lai 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 lai. Lai 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 lai. Lai 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 lai. Lai 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 lai. Adonai oz le'amo yitain yitain. Adonai yivarech et amo v'shalom. Adonai oz le'amo yitain yitain. Adonai yivarech et amo v'shalom. Lai 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 lai. Lai 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 lai. Lai 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 lai. Lai 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 lai. On page 138 and 139, we welcome the Shabbat bride with the words of the Chadodi. We say, Bo'Iva Shalom, come in peace, Gam B'Simcha, and also in happiness, and Sohola, and also in joy. Let us greet the Sabbath bride. Lecha dodi likrat kala, yalalai, 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 b'nei Shabbat, nikavela. Lecha dodi likrat kala, yalalai, 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 b'nei Shabbat, nikavela. Shamor v'zachor b'dibur echad, tishmi anu el hamiyuchad. Adonai echad, u'shvo echad, l'shem u'tiferet v'letchila. Lecha dodi likrat kala, yalalai, 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 b'nei Shabbat, nikavela. Lecha dodi likrat kala, yalalai, 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 b'nei Shabbat, nikavela. Likrat Shabbat, nefur v'nilcha, ki hi mekor ha'bracha. Berosh mikedem nesucha, sof ma'aseh b'machshevat tzechila. Lecha dodi likrat kala, yalalai, 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 b'nei Shabbat, nikavela. Lecha dodi likrat kala, yalalai, 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 b'nei Shabbat, nikavela. Verse number 5. Hit'oreri, hit'oreri, ki ba'oreh kumi uri, uri, uri. Shir daberi kevod Adonai, alayich nigla. Lecha dodi likrat kala, yalalai, 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 b'nei Shabbat, nikavela. Lecha dodi likrat kala, yalalai, 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 b'nei Shabbat, nikavela. We rise, we face the door as we come to verse 9, the final verse, as we welcome the Shabbat bride. Bo'Iva Shalom, ateret bala, gam b'simcha u'tzola, toch emunei am segula. Bo'ichala, bo'ichala. Lecha dodi likrat kala, yalalai, 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 b'nei Shabbat, nikavela. Lecha dodi likrat kala, yalalai, 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 b'nei Shabbat, nikavela. We've welcomed the Shabbat bride. Let's welcome each other. Turn to your neighbors and the people across the aisle. Wish everyone Shabbat Shalom. For those of you who are joining us online on templeshalom.com live, and on our YouTube channel, Shabbat Shalom to all of you as well. Well, Shabbat Shalom again, everyone. If we can all find our seats again. Page 140. Yismor shir liyom haShabbat, tov lehodot la'Adonai, u'lizamer l'shimcha elyon, u'lizamer l'shimcha elyon. Yismor shir liyom haShabbat, tov lehodot la'Adonai, u'lizamer l'shimcha elyon, u'lizamer l'shimcha elyon. Lahagi baboker chastecha, Emunatecha baleilot, ale asor ve'ale navel, ale higayon bechirot. Mizmor shir liyom haShabbat, tov lehodot la'Adonai, u'lizamer l'shimcha elyon, u'lizamer l'shimcha elyon. Kisimachtani Adonai b'fo'olecha b'maaseh yadecha aranim ma gadlu ma'asecha Adonai me'od amku machshivotecha. Mizmor shir liyom haShabbat, tov lehodot la'Adonai, u'lizamer l'shimcha elyon, u'lizamer l'shimcha elyon. Mizmor shir liyom haShabbat, tov lehodot la'Adonai, u'lizamer l'shimcha elyon, u'lizamer l'shimcha elyon, u'lizamer l'shimcha elyon, u'lizamer l'shimcha elyon. Page 142. We speak of everything in extras on Shabbat. We say a prayer for one candle, but we light two. In many households, we have not one but two loaves of challah. And on Shabbat, we have an extra angel to watch over our extra soul. We greet those angels and we say, "Come in peace, O angels. Bless us in peace, O angels, and when you depart at the end of Shabbat, go in peace as well." Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hasharei, Malachei Elyon, Melech Malachei Hamalachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hasharei, Malachei Elyon, Melech Malachei Hamalachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Bo'achim Shalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech Malachei Hamalachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Baruch Hu Shalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech Malachei Hamalachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Baruch Hu Shalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech Malachei Hamalachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Seitchem Shalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech Malachei Hamalachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Ya la la la, ya la la la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la la la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, la 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 la, ya la la la, ya la la, la 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 la, ya la la la, ya la la la, ya la la la. Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hasharei, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech Malachei Hamalachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. We move from our Kabbalat Shabbat into our Mariv service with Chatzi Kaddish, page 144. Yitkada v'yitkada shemei rabba, Yalmad yivrach yirutev yamlich malchutei, v'chayechon uv'yomechon, uv'chayei dechol beit Yisrael, ba'agala, ba'agala, uv'yizvahan kaharivim eru, amen. Yehei shmei rabba mevorach, ve'alam lo me'almaya, yitbarach, Yitbarach, Vishtabach, Vitbar, Vidram, Vinase, Vitadar, Vitale, Vitalal, Shemei Dukudisha, Burichu, Le'elam, and Koberchata, Vishirata, Tushbechata, Vinechemata, Damihiron, Be'alma, Vimeru, Amen. We turn to page 146 as we rise for Baruch Hu. Lai 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 Barechu et Adonai HaMevorach Baruch Adonai HaMevorach HaMevorach Eolam Va'ed HaMevorach HaMevorach Eolam Va'ed. You can all be seated. We give thanks for creation. Blessed are you, Adonai, our God, ruler of the universe, who brought into being everything through the sound of your voice, changing the times and the seasons for us. Adonai Tzivaot, the God of all the minions, is your name. We praise you, God, who continues to rule over us for eternity. Praised are you who brings on the evening. Top of 148. Lai, 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 lai. Lai, 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 lai. Lai, 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 lai. Lai, 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 lai. Lai, 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 lai. Lai, 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 lai. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bidvaro ma'ariv aravim. B'chokhma poteach sha'arim, u'vitvuna meshane itim, u'machalif et ha'zmanim, u'mesader et ha'kochavim, u'mishmerotehem barakiyat yitzonot. Lai, 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 lai. Oriyom v'layla, golel or mipnei choshech. Choshech mipnei or, uma'avir yom u'mevi layla, uma'avdil ben yom u'ven layla, Adonai Tzivaot Shemo. Lai, 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 lai. Lai, 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 lai. Lai, 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 lai. Lai, 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 lai. El Chai v'Kayam Tamid Yimloch Aleinu Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch Atah Adonai Ha'ma'ari Aravi. Lai, 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 lai. Lai, 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 lai. Lai, 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 lai. Lai, 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 lai. Lai, 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 lai. Lai, 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 lai. Page 150. With a great amount of love, you have loved your people Israel, giving us your Torah to contemplate as we lie down and we rise up, giving it to us as a pathway for each and every step of each and every day. Ahavat Olam, page 150. Ahavat Olam, Beit Yisrael, Amcha Ahavta, Amcha Ahavta. Torah u'mitzvot, Hukim u'mishpatim, Otanu limadeta, Otanu limadeta. Hakein Adonai Eloheinu b'shochvenu v'kumenu nasiach v'kecha v'nismach v'divrei Toratecha v'mitzvotecha le'olam va'ed ki hem chayeinu ve'orech yameinu u'vahem yehege yomam v'layla yehege yomam v'layla ve'ahavatecha al tasir yiminu le'olamim Baruch atah Adonai ohev amo Yisrael ohev amo Yisrael. Page 152 and 153. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. 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 Baruch Shem Kivod Malchuto Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch Shem Kivod Malchuto Le'olam Va'ed. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Page 154. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha v'chol levavcha v'chol nafshecha v'chol meodecha v'hayu hadvarim ha'ela asher anochi mitzavecha hayom alevavecha v'shinantam levanecha v'dibarta bam v'shticha b'veitecha uvlechtecha v'derech uvshochbecha uvkumecha uvshartam leot al yadecha v'hayu letotafot beinenecha uchtavtam al mezuzot beitecha uvish arecha v'ma'an tiskeru v'asitem et kol sotai v'item kedoshim leloechem ani Adonai Elohechem asher hotzeiti etchem me'eretz Mitzrayim v'hiot bachem le'Elohim ani Adonai Elohechem emet. If you'll read with me in the English at the top of page 155. Love your God with every heartbeat, with every breath, with every conscious act. Keep in mind the words I command you today. Teach them to your children. Talk about them at work, whether you are tired or you are rested. Let them guide the work of your hands. Keep them in the forefront of your vision. Do not leave them at the doorway of your house or outside your gate. They are reminders to do all of my mitzvot so that you can be holy for God. I am Adonai your God. I led you out of Egypt to become your God. I am Adonai, your God. We come to the prayer of Geulah, our prayer of redemption, page 156. True and faithful is all this, that you are our God, and there is none else, and we are Israel, your people. Emet ve'emunah, the top of page 156. Emet ve'emunah, emet ve'emunah, emet ve'emunah, kozot ve'kayam aleinu, emet ve'emunah, kozot ki hu Adonai Eloheinu ve'ein zulato va'anachnu Yisrael amo emet ve'emunah, emet ve'emunah, emet ve'emunah, kozot ve'kayam aleinu, emet ve'emunah, kozot. When the children witnessed your dominance, they praised your name in gratitude, and they accepted you in sovereignty. And Moses and Miriam and all the children of Israel sang these words that we sing, page 158, our song of freedom. Kamocha ba'elim Adonai, kamocha ne'edar b'kodesh, Torah tehilot osefele, Torah tehilot osefele. Malchut tekara uvanecha, okei hayam tifnei Moshe u'Miriam, ze eli anu ve'amru, ze eli anu ve'amru. Adonai yimloch le'olam va'ed, Adonai yimloch le'olam va'ed. Yai lai lai la lai la 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 la, yai lai lai la lai la 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 la, yai lai 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 la la la, yai lai 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 lai. שנאמר, כי פדה אדוני את יעקב, וגואלו מיד חזק ממנו. ברוך אתה אדוני God Israel. We ask God to lie us down in peace and cause us to rise again tomorrow to life, to give us Eitzah Tovah, some good advice for our lives, and to protect us while we sleep from enemy and illness and war, from famine and sorrow and wrongdoing. We say, Ufros aleinu sukat shlomecha, spread over us the shelter of your peace. Top of 160. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu Shalom. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu Shalom. Ufros aleinu sukat shlomecha. The last three lines. Baruch ata Adonai aporei sukat shalom aleinu ve'al kol amo Yisrael ve'al Yerushalayim. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu Shalom. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu Shalom. Page 162. The children of Israel will guard the Shabbat, will make Shabbat a sign for all time between me and the children of Israel, God said. Because in 6 days God made the heavens and the earth. And on the seventh day, God ceased from everything and refreshed souls as we refresh our souls. Vishameru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, la'asot et ha-Shabbat lidorotam, berit olam v'nirvein b'nei Yisrael oti le'olam. Ki sheshet yamin asa Adonai et hashamayim ve'et haaretz u'viyom hashvi'i Shabbat Shabbat vayinafash Shabbat Shabbat vayinafash V'shameru Shabbat Shabbat vayinafash Shamu Shabbat, Shabbat vayinafash. We rise as we turn to page 64, 164, not 64, 164. Mea Shishim Ba'arba, for those who are paying attention in Hebrew. We bring ourselves into our Amidah, a time to pray together and a time to pray individually, a time to pray the words that we find in the pages of the Siddur, and the words that we find in the depths of our soul. Adonai, sifatai tiftach, ufi yagita hilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips, that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu, Elohei Avotenu v'imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, V'konei Hakol, V'zocher chaste avot ve'imahot, u'mevi gula livnei v'neihem, למען שמו באהבה, מלך עוזר מושיע ומגן, ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם ועזרת שרה, אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, וחיי הכל אתה רב להושיע, משיב הרוח ומוריד הגשם, מכלכל חיים בחסד, וחיי הכל ברחמים רבים. סומך נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו בישני עפר, מי כמוך בעל גבורות, ומידו מלך, מלך ממית ומחיה, ומצמיח ישועה, ונאמן אתה לחיות הכל. Baruch atah Adonai, Mechayei ha'kol, atah kadosh, Shimcha kadosh, u'kadoshim b'chol yom yahalelucha chasela. Baruch atah Adonai, ha'el ha'kadosh. We continue silently through 180 in the Hebrew or 181 in the English. When you finish your silent prayers, please be seated. Find these words near the bottom of page 180. May the words of my mouth and the meditations of my heart be acceptable to you, Adonai, my rock and my redeemer. Ihiyu leratso imrefi vehegyon libi lifanecha Adonai tzuri Adonai tzuri v'goali yehiyu leratzon imrefi v'hegyon libi lifanecha Adonai tzuri Adonai tzuri v'goali This weekend is our Veterans Shabbat. Tomorrow morning we'll have several veterans who are having our aliyot and reading Torah. But we want to begin this Veterans Shabbat by honoring all of our veterans. And so I'd like to call Elliot Cohen to the bima. And while he's coming, I would like all the veterans in the room to please rise. I know you're here, so all of our, we have a couple in here.
Okay, it's working. First, I'd like to now call out the names, and I may be missing some, of Temple Shalom members and veterans who have been in this synagogue and who have passed away. And then I'd like to say a prayer for our veterans and also for our Israeli soldiers. So in loving memory, remember Ed Allen, David Bram, Irv and Marcia Berg, Leonard Cotton, Art Egelman, Robert Feinberg, Gene Finkelstein, Joe Gordon, Sidney Gritz, who our chapter is named after General Gritz, Arnie Simon of recent, Ed Kaiser, Saul Meyer, William Maxwell, Mark Rosenberg, who passed away in the Iraqi War, Martin Roslin, Rabbi John Sherwood, the parent of a rabbi, John Skorinsky, Ed Weissler, Alan Osher, and Jack Dashoff. Almighty God, we stand here today to pay tribute to the brave men and women, living and dead, who have served the country in the armed forces. Accept our thanksgiving for their sacrifices and the sacrifices of their families, which have purchased for us a free land. Cause us never to take for granted their devotion to liberty. Let our spirits be proud of them. Let their hearts be compassionate and our minds clear and determined in giving them the honor and respect they deserve. Rekindle within us a flame of selfless, unwavering devotion to duty, that we may never be found wanting in those qualities of spirit and mind which are able to preserve our homes, our communities, and the peace of our nation and the peace of Israel. Keep our memories alive with gratitude, and our gratitude alive with our faithfulness to the principles which made our nations great. Grant, we pray, joy and fulfillment to those still living and for those who are at rest. Grant your peace to our veterans in the United States and our warriors in Israel. Thank you. Amen.
Thank you, Elliot. Our Torah portion this week is called Chaye Sarah, which means the life of Sarah. It's one of those strange Torah portions, well, strange names of a Torah portion, where the name of the Torah portion has nothing to do with what's going on in the Torah portion. It's called the life of Sarah, and spoiler alert, Sarah dies in the first sentence. And then we don't talk about Sarah except that we bury her. And Abraham finds a cave called the cave of Machpelah, and he buries her there. And at the end of the portion, Abraham himself is buried there by his sons Isaac and Ishmael. He buys the cave as a burial place, and we call it the cave of Machpelah. In Hebrew, it's Ma'arat Machpelah. So we translate Ma'arat, which means cave of, into English, and Machpelah we translate it in English as Machpelah. But what does it really mean? Machpelah means double. Ma'arat HaMachpelah means the double cave. So why is it called the double cave? It's called the double cave perhaps because there were two burial chambers inside the cave. We don't know because the cave is sealed. We know where it is today. There's a building built on top of the cave in the city of Hebron. The cave is perhaps called the double cave because Abraham and Sarah are buried there. Isaac and Rebekah are buried there. Jacob and Leah are buried there. And according to Kabbalistic tradition, Adam and Eve are buried there. You can figure that one on your own later, but there's cenotaphs there. There's like headstones for Adam and Eve in that building. You can take pictures of them, or you can just look on Google and see pictures of them. But perhaps it's called the double cave because we have double burials of married couples being buried there together. Perhaps it's called the double cave for other reasons. We don't really know why, because we don't go into the cave because the cave is sealed. But there are those who suggest that it's called the double cave because God knew that after Abraham purchased the cave and later on in history, and by later on in history I mean even to today, that it would serve a double purpose. Because if you go to the cave of Machpelah today, well, first of all, if you go to the cave of Machpelah today, I recommend you go with an armed escort because it's not exactly the safest place in the world. The first time I ever went to the cave of Machpelah to check it out, these Israeli soldiers started yelling at us because there were people throwing Molotov cocktails at the bus that we were going to get on to leave Hebron. Most of the people throwing the Molotov cocktails were like 8, 9, 10-year-old little Palestinian kids who had been given the Molotov cocktails by their parents and their uncles and such. And they started yelling at us and they said, "Are you stupid? Why are you here, you dumb Americans?" Because we had T-shirts with English written on them, right? And then we spoke to them in Hebrew. And they said, "Oh, you speak Hebrew. Just come stand over here till we get rid of the people with the Molotov cocktails. It'll all be fine." Because then when they figured if we spoke Hebrew, we knew what was going on and such there. It's kind of a hotbed of Palestinian uprisings from here and there. And there's an interesting piece to these Palestinian uprisings. You can cause one. I've caused one before. It's really true. Just this week, a friend of mine caused one. Strange to cause a Palestinian uprising, but here's how you do it. Here's how we did it when I was in the car. I was in the car with a tour guide and a cameraman and a reporter from ABC News. And we drove into Hebron, and we drove around, and nothing was going on in Hebron. And then the reporter took his sign that said ABC News, and he put it in the window of the car. And literally within 90 seconds, there was a riot in front of us to be filmed, ready-made in Hollywood for ABC News. A friend of mine was in Hebron just this last week and had the exact same experience. It's a way of telling you that what you see on TV might not be what's actually going on in the Middle East right now. And we need to talk about it a bit because of this cave. Because on top of the cave, there's a building. And in that building, there's a synagogue. And there's a mosque. And there's hours that Jews can pray in the synagogue, and there's hours that Muslims can pray in the mosque, and those hours do not exist at the same time. Because back in the 1930s, a bunch of Jewish vigilantes, or a bunch of Arab vigilantes, went and killed a bunch of Jews praying in the synagogue. And then, many decades later, a Jewish vigilante went and killed a bunch of Muslims praying in the mosque. The Palestinians built a statue to the guy who killed the Jews. The Jews in Kiryat Arba, the Jewish settlement right next to Hebron, built a statue to the guy who killed the Muslims. It's been torn down 3 times by the Israeli government. But I wonder, why aren't they praying at the same time? I mean, the Muslims pray 5 times a day and Jews 3 times a day, but the morning prayers are about the same time of the morning. But they can't go in at the same time because it's not safe. We sometimes say that Jews were descended from Isaac, and Arabs and Muslims are descended from Ishmael. And Isaac and Ishmael came together in the cave to bury their father, Abraham. Isaac and Ishmael, who we read in the Torah, did not exactly have a good relationship. The ancestor of the Jews, the ancestor of the Arabs, they didn't have a good relationship. But at the double cave, the cave of Machpelah, they came together to bury their father. They set aside the struggles between 2 brothers so that they could make peace for a moment to bury their father. And today, in that place, we have the descendants of those 2 people who can't come together to bury their father or to do much of anything. And in some places, we're afraid to talk about it. There's a prayer that was in the Amidah, if you read through the English part of the Amidah. It was on page 173. You can look it up later if you want to. Those things on the English readings, we often don't talk about who wrote them. But the one at the bottom of page 73 was written by a rabbi almost 100 years ago. Okay, it was 90 years ago. He wrote it 90 years ago. His name is Mitchell Salem Fisher. He was a young rabbi, and he wrote these words that are on page 173, and he wrote them right before he resigned as a rabbi and became a lawyer instead, because he said being a rabbi is a terrible job. And what he said is this: he was sick of the complaints that he got, that rabbis today still get. I got one 2 weeks ago myself. He says, I'm going to read to you what he said in his resignation letter from resigning from being a rabbi. Preachers enunciate ideals, but these must remain so indefinite, so unpointed, so unchallenging, so completely removed from the real issues of everyday living and struggling, that these ideals become patently and utterly vain. The rabbi becomes an exalted lecturer, entertainer, and institution promotion agent, instead of one who talks about real life. And he resigned from being a rabbi, and then he became a lawyer who did family law and also represented rabbis. But he wrote these words as a prayer: disturb us, Adonai, ruffle us from our complacency, make us dissatisfied with the peace of ignorance, the quietude which arises from a shunning of the horror, the defeat, the bitterness, and the poverty, physical and spiritual, of humans. Shock us, Adonai. Deny to us the false Shabbat, which gives us the delusions of satisfaction amid a world of war and hatred. Wake us, O God, and shake us from the sweet and sad poignancies rendered by half-forgotten melodies and rubric prayers of yesteryears. Make us know that the border of the sanctuary is not the border of living, and the walls of your temples are not shelters from the winds of truth, justice, and reality. Disturb us, O God, and vex us. Let not your Shabbat be a day of torpor and slumber. Let it be a time to be stirred and spurred to action. He wrote these words in the 1930s, in the early days of Hitler coming to power in Germany. And he said we need to speak in our synagogues, and we need to speak in the streets, and we need to speak in the media, and we need to speak everywhere about the truth of what's happening to the Jewish people. For him, in Germany, for us, in Israel, next to Gaza. And we need to know that the truth needs to come out, because right now, we are losing the war. I don't mean the war between the tanks of Israel and the rockets of Gaza. I mean the war on CNN and Fox News and ABC and NBC and CBS and MSNBC and the New York Times and the Los Angeles Times and the Wall Street Journal and the Herald Times in London and the newspapers and TV stations all around the world. Because when we watch them, they seem to have forgotten that there are over 240 hostages being held in these tunnels in Gaza. They seem to have forgotten that the Palestinians who support Hamas, who are growing in number, are allowing Hamas to put their rocket launchers in the playgrounds of schools, and to put their command centers inside of mosques, and to put their radars inside of the basements of hospitals. No one's showing on television, as I was just watching earlier today, the Israeli tanks at the south of Gaza City. Did anybody see the Israeli tanks at the south of Gaza City this morning? You probably didn't, because no one in America is showing it. I watched it on Israeli television online. There were Palestinians marching down the street and driving cars down the street in between the Israeli tanks. And of course, people thought the Israeli tanks are there to kill the Palestinians. But the Israeli tanks were faced away from the Palestinians, because Hamas was there shooting at the Palestinians who were leaving Gaza City to go to where it's safe in the south of Gaza. And the Israeli tanks were shooting at the Hamas terrorists who were trying to kill not the Israelis in the tanks, the Palestinians who were walking and driving down the street through the humanitarian corridor that the Israeli tanks created. On TV in America, you don't see the horrors of what Hamas did. And Israel, by the way, thank God, today lowered the number to around 1,200 of those who were killed. We thought it was about 1,400. Now that we've done some more investigation, thank God the number's smaller. Thank God more survived. But in Israel, they just passed a new law. You can't watch the tapes made by Hamas of the horrors that happened, because they're so horrifying. You can find them online. Please don't. They were shown in a 45-minute movie at the Museum of Tolerance in Los Angeles a couple of days ago. They were shown to all of the media by Israel. And they're too horrifying to discuss. The things that you've heard on television about what these Hamas terrorists did, it's nothing. You heard the nice stuff. And think about how horrifying it is. But we need to speak up and tell the media that when we hear on television that Israel is killing too many Palestinians, which they are, that's happening because Hamas made it happen, not Israel. When people call for a ceasefire, we can say, but there was a ceasefire all the way through October 6th, and Hamas broke it. When they tell us that what Israel is doing is wrong, and we hear it from people in the American government, and people in the British government, and the French government, and the German government, and the Australian government, and the Mexican government, and the United Nations, and they say what Israel is doing is wrong, I say to them this: what Israel is doing is right. And someone said to me, are you telling me that Israel's right and the rest of the world is wrong? And I said, that's exactly what I'm telling you. Israel is right and the rest of the world is wrong. And like the rabbi who wrote this prayer in the 1930s, we need to step out and keep saying it. There's an interfaith group that I'm a founding member of. They wanted to send out a letter supporting peace and harmony, and I think skipping through the forest and singing Kumbaya, looking at butterflies and rainbows. And I vetoed it. And the group hasn't met since then because, as the discussions are going on online, that rabbi wouldn't let us put something about peace and harmony of people living together. But that's not where we are right now. The reality is that this is a war that we need and we need to win. And from all of the protests that we see online, I hope, if you're not going to be with me on Tuesday, I hope you will watch it on the news. On Tuesday, I'll be in Washington, D.C., on the Mall, with about 250,000 other Jews. There's one other person from Temple Shalom that I know that's going with me. Jewish Colorado has chartered half of the Southwest flight. We're leaving at 5:20 in the morning on Tuesday morning. We're flying to Washington, D.C. We're getting on buses, and thousands of buses will be parked in the parking lot at RFK Stadium. And then hundreds of thousands of Jews will get on the metro in Washington, D.C. and go out to the mall. We're expecting 250,000 to be there. And afterwards, we'll all get back on the metro, we'll get back on our plane, and those of us who are going with the Colorado delegation will be back here at 10 o'clock Tuesday night at DIA. We're paying a bunch of money to be on a plane and a bus and go to a thing for about 3 hours in Washington, D.C. and come home. On the surface, that sounds ridiculous. We're going to pay a bunch of money to get on a long plane flight, hang out in Washington, D.C. for 3.5 hours, and then get a long plane flight home and get home after midnight. But the world needs to see that 250,000 Jews, which if you do the math, you'll see that if we hit that number and go beyond it, that's 1 out of every 24 Jews in America will be in Washington, D.C. on the Mall on Tuesday. And that protest will be bigger than any protest that they've been showing on TV anywhere in America, of people shouting things like, "From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. Such a name you can't hide, we charge you with genocide." Our voices will be louder. And our voices will be louder because we're right. And anybody who disagrees with me, I'll frankly say, they're wrong. There's right and there's wrong. And those who disagree with what I'm saying now are wrong. And if people are insulted by my saying that, I'm good with that. Because I hope people who disagree are insulted by that. Because right now, this is a time for the Jewish community to stand together behind the Jewish people and behind Israel. I agree. We should have a ceasefire right now. As soon as they release all of the hostages and turn over all the leaders of Hamas to the International Court of Justice and turn over all of the rockets that Hamas owns and give us the floor plans to the tunnels underneath Gaza. And as soon as they do that, the ceasefire should take place within the next 30 seconds. But until then, we need to be the voice of what is right. And sometimes it's hard to be right. It shouldn't be. It should be easy to be right. But for some reason, in this case, it's not. And so we can look to these words that were written 90 years ago by Rabbi Fisher, when he said, "Make us dissatisfied with the peace of ignorance, the quietude which arises from a shunning of the horror of the things we see in humanity." So on this Shabbat, may we find the peace of Shabbat, but may we also be disturbed. May we be dissatisfied. May we get rid of the ignorance. We can do it one person at a time. My daughter's a freshman up at University of Northern Colorado. One of her classmates, an upperclassman, was posting all sorts of anti-Israel stuff on social media, as college students will do, because it's a popular thing to do now, to trash Israel. And my daughter pulled this person aside and had a serious conversation with her. taught her. And that student, an upperclassman being confronted by a freshman, pulled down all of the anti-Israel social media that she had placed on her various platforms and started putting up things that are the truth of what's happening. Every one of us needs to do the same. When we hear people who are spreading all of the falsehoods, whether it's someone in the store or it's someone on TV, we need to be the ones to speak up. We need to be dissatisfied with the peace of ignorance. We need to be disturbed into doing what's right. And we need to proudly do what's right. If you won't be with me in Washington, D.C. on Tuesday, I hope you'll be on the TV watching the news that night, which will definitely be showing what's going on in Washington, D.C. And I hope you'll tell your friends to watch the news, and your neighbors to watch the news, and the people at work to watch the news. Because we need to be the voice of what is right. We can't be the voice of being quiet. And right now, it's not the time to be the voice of peace and harmony. I'd like peace, but to have peace, there needs to be a pathway of harmony. It's not there yet, but I pray that it will come soon, and that each one of us will be an agent to make it come. Amen. We'll take a moment to think of those who are in need of healing. Aside from those, or in addition to those who are still in the hospitals in Israel from the attack of nearly a month ago, from those who are in the hospitals now from protecting the state of Israel. We also ask for healing for Gnendel Batsima, Fran Hart, Aharon Ben Avraham Basara, Sarah Tischler, Stanley Sachs, Kathy Twardock, Lucy Jacobs, Fred Trauax, Eliezer Mordechai Ben Leah Ganassa, Leanna Haas, David Morse, Mick Robertson, David Ben Chaim, Perry Bach, Lisa Stark, Rose Dymek, Lucas Bartelt, Janice Broder, Malka Batsara, Bob Bell, Lisa Lead, and Merle Haber. Do we have any other names for healing? We'll start on this side of the room if anybody has names. Thank you. Any others on this side? Thank you. On this side, names for healing. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. For all those that we have named and for all those in need, page 371 in the middle of the page. Yishevera avoteinu mikor habracha leimoteinu. May the source of strength who blessed the ones before us help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Mishevera imoteinu mikor habracha leavoteinu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen. We come to the closing prayers of our service as we rise for Aleinu and turn to page 586. Aleinu d'shabeach ladon hakol, latet gdula liotzer ebreshit, shelo asanu kugei haratzot, velo samanu k'mishpachot ha'adama, shelo sam chelkeinu kahen, v'gor aleinu kechol hamonam, Va'anachnu korim Umishtachavim umodim lifnei melech malchei hamelachim hakadosh baruch hu shehu notei shamayim veyoser haaretz umoshav yikaro bashamayim ima'al ushchinatu zo begove meheromim hu Eloheinu einot Emet malkeinu efes zulato kakatu betorato yadata hayom v'hashivota elevavecha ki Adonai hua Elohim bashamayim mima'al ve'al haaretz mitachat einod the middle of 590. Yamalchut shachai olamantim loch bechavod. Kakatu b'toratecha arayim loch le'olam va'ed. V'ne'emar vaya Adonai lemelech al kol haaretz. Vayom hahu yeh Adonai echad. Ushemo echad, Ushemo echad. We can all be seated. In our yard sites this week, we recall the memories of Eva Bloom, Noel Schmemmerman, Rebecca Levine, Judith Kaiser, Ann Herr, Barbara Michelson, Carol Rafaela, Gert Herr, Harry Tischler, Henrietta Scheck, Paul Gagnon, Rose Tischler, Sam Gordon, Samuel Scheck, Walter Katz, Donald Browdy, John Brock, Leon Mello, Russell Funel, Donald Newman, James Perry, Sidney Gordon, Walter Sonderman, A.L. Briskman, Abe Braverman, David Snyder, John Skorenke, Linda Albert, Mary Flax, Shirley Berman, William Wilson, and Sarah Wasserstrom. Are there any other yard sites that anyone is observing this week? Thank you. Any others? May their memory be an eternal blessing. We ask mourners to rise and those whose custom it is to stand with them as we turn to page 598. And in their memory, we sanctify God's name. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei rabbah. Be'alma divrach irutei v'yamlich malchutei. V'chayechon uvyomechon uv'chayei d'chol beit Yisrael. V'agala u'zman kari v'imru amen. Yehei shmei rabbah mavorach le'olam olmei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh. V'yithadar v'yit'aleh v'yithalal shemei d'kudusha b'richu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata. Tushbechata v'nechemata. T'amiran be'alma v'yimru amen. Yehei shalama rabba min shemaya. V'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'yimru amen. Oseh shalom bimroma. Huya aseh shalom. Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'yimru amen. We can all be seated. A few announcements. Maggie. A few announcements before we make a little kiddush and motzi together in the back of the room. I don't know, I mean, the congregational meeting is important. I don't know what else is on there, but I don't know about the rest.
I wasn't going to lead with that. I was going to
Okay.
bury the lead, but
Okay.
sure. So thank you, everyone, for joining us this evening. Oh. Thank you, everyone, for joining us this evening. Shabbat Shalom. Thank you, as always, to the always wonderful and always on point, Rabbi Jay Sherwood. It's always a pleasure to be here on a Friday night. Y'all are missing a lot over here, just saying. And for everyone else who participated in the service. I don't think that counts. As we all wish to support people affected by the attacks in Israel, we have several sources on the website. You can go on to shalom.com, templeshalom.com. There are links. If you would like to donate to the security fund, because we are using more security personnel at this time, that would be fantastic. As always, security is heightened at this time, so please adhere to the protocols. If you have questions about the protocols, you can call the office, and generally just kind of use a common sense approach. This Sunday, from 12 to noon, is the semi-annual congregational
10 to noon.
meeting. What?
Not 12 to noon, 10 to noon.
It is not. It says 9 to noon, right there.
Oh, 9 are bagels. But
Okay.
not 12 to noon. Definitely not 12 to noon.
We could do 12 to noon. That'd be a really short meeting.
Shortest
I
congregational
have to take
meeting ever.
notes,
12
so
until
it's a
noon.
very short meeting. It's more like a memo. It could be a text. Anyway, from 9 to noon on Sunday is the semi-annual congregational meeting. If you are a member, please come. It keeps you informed on everything that's going on. If you have questions, you'll be able to meet with the people from the board and get more information if you have questions about things. We do have events coming up on the calendar for November. If you have questions about, say, for example, whether we have religious school the week of Thanksgiving, I would definitely check the website. I'm just saying, because obviously we're not having religious school the week of Thanksgiving. The Israeli event of dancing, Havdalah, and dessert was in fact canceled, so if you signed up for that, don't come, because we won't be here. December has a lot of events. Please check the calendar. The Hanukkah Fair is on the 10th of December, and if you are interested, it is at noon. It starts at noon, and the Temple Beit Torah has invited us to participate in CPR and AED class on the same day from 2 to 5. So you could actually go from the Hanukkah Fair over there, and the class is being taught by an ex-Special Forces medic. So you should get some good information. You need to go on their website and register.
So after you clog your arteries with all of the grease of the latkes, you can find out how to use CPR and the AED to save your life from all the grease from the latkes. There you go.
Well, it's the sufganiyot. It's supposed to wash out the oil from
Yeah.
but it never quite works out that way. We are still looking to fulfill the playground matching grant from Jewish Colorado. I will have a table at the Hanukkah Fair, so please come. And if you haven't donated by then, hopefully I can convince you to donate then. There is a Kobe class, which is going to be the Melton School class Beyond Borders, the history of the Arab-Israeli conflict. If you're interested, please go online and sign up. And my personal favorite, the annual Mahjong announcement was inadvertently left out of the weekly email because we love Karen Kaplan-Weiss and Mahjong. We wish to tell you that your Mahjong cards are available from her through January 31st. The contact information will be in the weekly email. If you know anyone who has suffered a loss, who is ill, who needs our support, please contact the office so that we can reach out to them. And thank you so much. Shabbat Shalom. I appreciate y'all being here tonight. It means a lot. Y'all take care.
Well, since we're using y'all, would y'all please rise and turn, and if y'all would take, and when I worked at a camp in Mississippi, I learned that y'all is also possessive. So would y'all grab y'all's Sidurim and turn to page 678. Kolod baleva penima nefesh Yehudi homiha ufa'aten mizrach kadima ayin mitzion Sophia, oh Lord. Sham Choshi Be'artzeinu Eretz Zion Yerushalayim. Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Please join us for Kiddush and Motzi in the social hall.